If you would find, three particular numbers that really are essential and just start tracking those every day, it could take you a number of minutes. You could put them on a piece of paper if you're not Excel savvy, but don't run away from Excel or some tool like that just because you currently don't know how to use it. You can learn to use anything, follow a tutorial, go to YouTube. These numbers that we're going to encourage you to track will make a huge difference in your efficiency and your success, and that's the reason we want to talk about them. Good morning.
So we are continuing our theme this month on being the CEO of your business. And today we're going to be talking about numbers, tracking, all of that stuff that typically makes realtors want to run for the hills.
Okay, let's make it worse.
So where do you want to start with this topic?
Well, I want to say before we go deep, and I guess if anybody joins us partway through, they won't catch my softening intro, but anything that you start to track is going to help, right? If you would find, three particular numbers that really are essential and just start tracking those every day, it could take you a number of minutes. You could put them on a piece of paper if you're not Excel savvy, but don't run away from Excel or some tool like that just because you currently don't know how to use it. You can learn to use anything, follow a tutorial, go to YouTube. These numbers that we're going to encourage you to track will make a huge difference in your efficiency and your success, and that's the reason we want to talk about them.
Awesome, good. So what number do you suggest that agents start if they're not doing any tracking? No tracking whatsoever, except when they get a commission, it says what their year-to-date income is, right? That's their tracking. And maybe they even use that pay stub to figure out their quarterly taxes if they're paying them at all. Maybe they're just waiting and paying it in one lump sum. So if you had to track one number, what would it be?
Because I had two, so that's tough. That's awesome.
Sorry,
Charlie. I also feel like this is kind of like the dating game where they asked us off stage, and now we've got two coaches who get to answer this, and I have no idea. It was tough. So I guess if it's one, although boy, this is a toughie. Nope, I picked a new one. It's appointments. How many appointments?
That's what I was going to say. And it's funny. I got off of a coaching call this morning, and we're always asking about conversations, right? What's the conversation number? How many? And I've been really trying to pivot. Well, how many appointments did you? I'm glad you hit your conversation number, but how many appointments came from that? Right? Because conversations don't matter unless you're getting appointments.
Well, I think the slippery thing with conversations, and this is the challenge of being a coach, is we don't all speak the same language, apparently. Right. And when somebody said I had so many conversations, you have to clarify, what does that mean?
Yeah, about what?
No, I'll have somebody say I left 15 voicemails. I'm like, for real?
Yeah.
Or they'll say, well, I dialed 15 people and 2 of them picked up and we talked about their dog's knee surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got to get clear on what we're talking about. So right. Yeah, appointments are tangible.
Well, yeah. And I think that we've said before that if most agents are going on one appointment a day and they knew what to say, they'd be good. Almost regardless of what their income goal is.
Sure.
Now, there's big teams and stuff that they need to be going on, more than one appointment a day. But if most agents are going on one appointment a day, you probably don't have to worry about money.
Well, okay, now we have to define appointment. So for me, appointment is a first-time buyer presentation, buyer consultation, buyer assessment, a listing presentation. So I would say the average agent, an appointment a week would be perfect. And so it's fascinating that you said per day, because let's do the math. If you went on an appointment a week, and let's throw away 2 weeks for the heck of it and call it 50 weeks in a year. So 50 appointments, let's say you convert half. Now, if you're really, really new or not very good at your job, half may be a reach.
Mm-hmm.
An experienced agent needs to not assume 99%, because although you probably convert a lot of your listings because they're friends in sphere, buyers aren't necessarily all ready to go, and this market doesn't work for all of them.
Right.
So that's 50 may be low, but 50 is safe. So 50 weeks in a year, 25 appointments, or 25 conversions and closings at an average of 10, 12, 15 thousand per close.
Yeah.
We're looking 300 GCI. So I would
Right.
say, this is the thing I'm saying to my people who are squeamish about an appointment goal: 1 a week, baby. Give me 1 a week. Yeah.
No, I like that. You're measuring an appointment people that are ready to transact, or at least ready to jump into the market. It sounds like to me.
They're ready to transact.
Yeah. I would say if it's 1 a day, you're talking to past clients, sphere, the coffees, the this, the that. So when I say go on 1 appointment a day, that I would include past clients.
See, okay. Well, we probably don't want to get too far down in the weeds because there's so many numbers to talk about. Because today we're talking about being the CEO, and when you have that CEO time with yourself every week, what are you tracking? Where are you tracking it? That's what we need to talk about.
Yeah. So number 1 is appointments.
Well, but I want to define. Yeah. I want to keep going deeper on this whole going out to coffee with somebody as an appointment. I think we need to call it something else, because if I remember years and years and years ago, this is at the bottom of the crash, I had a coach who would tell me to take my past clients to coffee and lunch. I did it a ton. I spent a ton of money on coffee and lunch. They were always happy to talk to me. None of them transacted. None of them referred me. The market had crashed. So to be able to report to my coach, I've been on a ton of appointments. I don't think that's right. So I would call those coffee appointments, even if it's, you know, I think those are valuable in staying in community with people. But again, Charlie, it's kind of like we have to say, tell me what you talked about.
Right.
If I take a girlfriend out to lunch and we talk about her boyfriend, I don't know that counts.
Yeah. Well, no, it doesn't. No, I mean, ideally, we're getting a referral from that, right?
Yeah.
But even if you are, that referral may not work out. They may not be ready to transact now. So your idea, listen, if you were going on 1 buyer consult a week or 1 listing appointment a week, that's very easy to define and very easy to track and measure.
When we have somebody in the comments saying, is a pop-by appointment a conversation? Thank you for putting that up there, Jackie. Is a pop-by appointment a conversation? Here's the thing. Conversations are conversations. If you're talking back and forth about people's real estate needs, that's a conversation. People say all the time, do we have to talk about real estate? No, please don't badger everyone you know and make them talk to you about real estate. But if you can't fit in a certain number of real estate conversations, then you're not growing your business. Right. So that's all. So if you pop by and all you do is be nice and take a peek at the twins and leave, that's terrific. I'm not saying you have to beg everyone for a referral, but if you don't fit in a certain number, and if you've done business planning, you know what your number is, it's usually something between like 25, 35, and depending on the team, it could be much bigger, 25 or 35 real estate conversations a week. So among all the other many life-affirming conversations you have, you need to find people motivated enough to have 25 to 35 real estate conversations and go on at least 1 initial buyer conversion listing presentation appointment every single week. All the rest of it, you got to call it something else.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So tracking appointments, listing appointments, and initial buyer consults. A showing is not an appointment, folks. Everyone's, I always get that question, right? You probably do too, right? Well, if I'm taking the buyers out for the 6th week in a row, is that an appointment? No,
it's not what we're talking about.
Right.
It's not an initial client conversion appointment.
Right. I mean, I'm very pleased that you continue to show them homes, and hopefully you're going to sell them one, but it doesn't count for the subject that we're talking about right now. Okay, so that's the number 1 number.
My managing broker used to say, when we'd say, I'm off to show houses, he'd say, don't do that. Go sell one.
Yes. I know of a broker that says the same thing.
So the number would be like this: conversations you have about real estate.
Yep.
That's the number 1 thing, although if you're tracking that and not appointments, it could be meaningless. So what's the number of conversations you have, and I say with potential clients, about real estate, right? Then number of appointments. Then time spent on lead generation. So now remember that you're sitting, let's pretend it's Sunday. You're having your CEO time with yourself. Mega producing agent I know who goes to Panera Bread. I don't know if you guys have that on the East Coast.
Yep.
Goes to a bakery coffee shop and just sits there by herself and has her CEO time. She's not in her office. She's not in her home office. I don't know why that works for her brain. She's in a different space.
Right.
Total number of hours worked. Now this may be harder to track But eventually, if you start paying attention to that, that could be healthy. I think we all think that we work ourselves to death.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of us tend to be inefficient. So at some point, it would be wise to start paying attention to, am I working? Am I managing my time? Am I giving myself time off? Because we talked not yesterday, on Wednesday, about CEO, CFO, COO. And I said, one of the departments you need to manage as the head of your real estate business is human resources.
Right.
How hard are you working your people, and do you give them time to recover?
Yep.
Same true for you. Number of transactions by source. That one's kind of simple. We talk about that all the time. Where does the business come from, right? Number of closings that are listings versus buyers. This can be really, really helpful to make plans for the future, right? Buyers take a lot more time than listings, and buyers don't necessarily create the marketing collateral that grows your brand and generates other leads.
Right.
Listings do. So there's a lot of reasons to pay attention to your listings versus buyers. If you're paying for leads like Zillow leads, you're probably buyer heavy. I really understand that. And then number of closings that you double end. That one can just be interesting. I'm not quite sure. Charlie, can you think of a reason that would be a vital statistic? I know the people who do them track them because they're so excited.
I think that's makes for an interesting conversation with a seller. My pool of buyers is so big, I sell a third of the listings myself. You know, which means I more than likely have a buyer for your home, right? So that's an interesting. I think it's an interesting number. Yeah, I agree.
Size of your database, right? And now we've got to get down in the weeds with the definitions of words again. All right.
Yep.
Your database is your address book. I guess maybe not everybody's old enough to know what those are. Your contact list, right? You have their name, you have their phone number or email address. That's a contact. And hopefully it's in your database and not floating out in the ether. So database is the compilation of every single contact record you have. The subset of that would be open house leads, friends from church, coworkers from my former job, right? So we can get picky within the database.
Yep.
The database includes the people you know and the people you don't. I know a company that calls them Mets and not Mets. Mets and not Mets. You know them or you don't, but you have the contact information. Okay. Now you're going to have a marketing strategy, conversion strategy for everyone in there, and it's not going to be the same for your mom as it is for your Zillow leads. Okay? But everybody needs to be in there. The most juicy, important part of your database is your sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence includes your past clients because they know you. Yep. Sphere of influence are the people who know, like, and trust you. When people say, what about your past clients? Do they know, like, and trust you? Then they're in there. Then they're in there. Yeah. If you want to create really unique marketing strategies and you have a completely different newsletter for your mom than you do for your past clients, I suppose that's okay. If I was your coach, I would highly discourage it. You're making work for yourself. Right. So I say take all the people who know, like, and trust you, and you would love to work with them and call them your sphere and treat them the same, invite them to your events, educate them about the market. Just because somebody worked with you once before doesn't mean they're going to be the next one to sell their house. Your high school buddy who didn't work with you 3 years ago probably is. It's about time for them to sell their house. So that's my thinking. So the size of your database and the size of your sphere as a subset. Two extremely important numbers, right? Charlie, how many people say to you, oh, but Amy, a bunch of them are realtors? People say that all the time. Okay, fine. Get organized.
Yeah, I often pose the question, how many people do you know that you would strike up a conversation with if you saw them that don't have a real estate license? So when I ask that question, I take care of that, and I'm also trying to get through that. Well, I've been doing pay-per-click and I've got 5,000 people. That's different, right? I'm trying to get to the number when I'm asking the question and describing the question. I'm going through, okay, whatever that number is, 10% of those people should be buying, selling, or referring. That's where I'm going with that question.
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But to the pay-per-click and the 5,000, you do need a strategy for.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, those people aren't just lost.
Right. But it's potentially a different strategy.
Yep. Precisely.
Yeah. Okay. So for all those whose heads are swimming, watch this again when it's done. here's the thing, all this is doable one step at a time. Don't be so overwhelmed by us that you don't start. The next thing would be to track the growth of your sphere. And by paying attention to how it grows over time, hopefully you'll make an effort to grow it, right? I have given most of my coaching clients a 2-a-week quota. Like, add 2 people every week to your sphere of influence, to your database. Like, you meet people. And here's, Charlie, I would love to have a room full of like 40 agents and grill them all and figure out how many of them have completely neglected huge parts of their community, people that they know that they just didn't think about. I swear it's a lot. We are all guilty of it, unless it's an extremely organized agent who has just combed the universe and used the memory jogger. So if you had a quota of adding 2 people a week, people are going to start to occur to you. You're going to go, oh yeah, totally so-and-so. Why didn't I think of that? I've known Rhoda across the street forever. You know, we don't party together, but she's been my neighbor for 20 years. Why isn't she in my sphere of influence? So if you give yourself a quota, if like my example, 2 a week, your sphere of influence will grow by 100 in a year. That's a phenomenal number, right?
Well, I was going to say, where you're going with this is these are people that you already know. They're just not in the database. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I got to go out and meet 2 people, right, and become friends with them this week. Sure. No, what Amy's saying is use the memory jogger, and does everybody that we already know, are they in there? Because you and I have talked about this before. The answer is often they're not. They're not. Is your dentist in there? If not, why? Is it because you think they know 20 realtors? There's the drunk monkey telling you, right? Maybe they don't. Maybe those 20 other realtors never talked to them about real estate. Anyway, back to your numbers.
But okay, yes, you're totally right. That's exactly right. But you also could put people in there that you meet. Because my favorite example is the year that I had 3 different 30-plus-year-old bachelors who were living with their parents. All 3, and I decided I was the bachelor realtor. All 3 of them decided to buy their first home, and their parents tagged along. It did not occur to me in the weeks we spent looking at houses together with the parents in the back seat to add their parents to my database. They're local. They own a house. They're grateful to me for taking good care of their son. We became friends. Why didn't I put them in? It just didn't occur to me. So if you had that quota, your antenna would be out for when it's like, oh, I just met so-and-so's sister-in-law. I should totally put her on my newsletter or whatever. Yeah.
No, I like that. Good. Okay.
Growth of the size of the sphere of influence. This one may seem like a nitpicky thing, but I think you need to track the open rate of your mass emails. If you're sending out a mass newsletter to 200 people, 1,000 people, and you're saying to yourself or your coach or your broker, oh, I'm communicating, I'm consistent, I'm on it, man, I'm sending a newsletter to everybody, and you check the open rate and it's like 13%. That means 87% of the people you think that you're communicating with don't know you exist.
Right.
So that's an important thing. If that's one of your primary methods of communication is a mass email, you need to be tracking the open.
Yep. Well, and the analytics will tell you if somebody's opened it like 6 times or clicked on a certain link. I mean, that's valuable stuff, right? Yeah. We are, we as a company, we actually target those that are more involved with us from a recruiting perspective. If somebody is always opening our e-newsletter, do you think our telemarketers are in touch with those people more often? Yes, they are, right? So I think that, tracking that is super valuable, and it needs to be done like every week, right? Who is engaging? What, if somebody clicks on, the 3 reasons to not wait till spring to sell your home, if one person clicked on that 8 times when you sent it out last night, you need to be calling that person, right? Yeah.
Or if you have poor open rate, you got to do something about it.
Somebody said, I got a buyer by checking email stats last week.
Nice.
There you go. Nice. I like it. Very good.
Yeah. So, and the reason for tracking all of this stuff is so that you can make improvement, right? Yep. So you can make changes. So if you discover you have a poor open rate, you got to do something about it. The success of your marketing and other lead generating activities, all of that has to be tracked too, right? So your cost per closing of, say, paid leads. If you're paying Zillow, you need to be keeping track. And I'm using Zillow sort of as the Zillow Realtor.com kind of category. I should probably be clear about that. So if you're paying a big company for leads, what is the conversion? What is the cost per closing? You could do cost per lead, I suppose. I don't know that that's as sexy or compelling as, I closed this and here's what it cost me. And I know in past, Zillow in particular has said that if you've got a 30% cost to return, you should be good. And I want everybody listening to think about that, right? If you're paying them a 33% referral fee, are you happy with that long term, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's a super important number. Cost per closing of paid leads. Cost in time and money for leads generated from open houses. Maybe now's not a great time to talk about this, but I just don't think it will be forever that we don't have the ability to do really impressive open houses. So I taught a class for Remax Allegiance the other day, and we talked about this. I said, please, 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 if you're going to hold open houses as a way of leveraging your listings, have a really committed plan for making them go as well as possible, and all but guaranteeing you closable leads each time. Don't just wing it. Don't put up 3 directional signs and say, well, didn't work out that time. Fight for a better outcome than that. And that's the reason to track it, right? If open houses are going to be a source for you, make sure that you're tracking it. For me, I honestly think if open houses were going to be a special initiative, it needs a special spreadsheet. Maybe it's a special tab in your main spreadsheet where you're saying, this address I held open, this day, this time, I ran these ads, I knocked this many neighbors, I mailed this many flyers, this is what I did, and this is what I got, right?
Right.
And you can look back at the end of the year and say, yes, open houses work or not. Now, the truth is open houses work. They work great. There are agents out there crushing it, and it's their primary source of business. So if it's not working well for you, it's because you're dabbling in it. And I have just strongly encouraged all my coaching clients, stop dabbling, choose a few things to do well, and don't do the other things.
Yeah, I like it. Good. Okay.
The cost and return on investment from all your paid ads. Okay, if you're running ads, what is that generating? This is potentially, an hours long conversation around, well, how do you quantify that? I get it. That's tough. But I think if you start tracking the engagement of your paid ads over time, you'll at least see if it's getting better, right?
So you're talking all ads, not just internet ads?
What
are you talking like billboards?
Oh boy. Okay, that's a really good point. And I was thinking online ads. How the heck would you track your billboards?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's branding. You can't unless there's a call to action and you're using like a different URL or whatever, right? Anyway, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but you're talking ROI on internet leads.
Super valid point. And in this day and age, I don't know how many people run ads in the newspaper, but billboards are still a thing and shopping carts are still a thing.
Yep.
And the thing that I say to people is I think billboards and shopping carts in particular can be really good reinforcement of the presence you already have in an area. Yep. Like I know a couple who absolutely dominate in their farm area and they own all the shopping carts.
Right, exactly.
Enforcement of their brand. Yep. I don't know that anybody gets shopping carts alone to make the phone ring.
No, but there's people that try, which again is another topic.
And I think that's, so I don't think that's good. There is a woman in my market. She's actually a friend of mine. She has a very iconic look. She's a beautiful African-American woman with spiky red hair.
Okay.
And has a ton of billboards. And I think it's working great because you can't not see her.
Right,
Just look at her. So it could. If you have, I think we've seen the thing. There's this guy who has a billboard and he has his arms out, and I can't remember what the thing. Do you remember this? I swear they talked about it at one of our conferences. Anyway, you can do something crazy on a billboard, but that's a whole other topic. I'm talking about if you're running Facebook ads, you need to pay attention. Am I getting engagement?
Yep. Okay.
A/B testing, right? Well, I did one with this and I did one with that. Which one engaged better? That's the kind of thing you have to do. And the average agent, Charlie, I don't think really needs to be dabbling in this. I think it's a time suck to try to make yourself the Facebook expert.
Yep. No, I agree.
What do you think about that?
No, I agree. I think that people are looking for that magic pill, silver bullet. They feel like Facebook might be it. There's been a lot of, every day I've been hearing about, how can I get more listings, right? What do I, and it's, the home value leads on Facebook is probably not the way you're going to get a listing next week. Have you talked to your past clients in Sphere? It's probably going to be the way that you get a listing next week. So yeah, and it keeps changing. The rules change. I spent more time than I should have. I just wanted to boost a welcome message.
Yeah.
Right. But no, it turned into this whole discriminatory thing because of HUD. You can't even, and they're like, press the boost button. And then when you do it, they deny the freaking ad. So I think it's so complex. If you want to go big on Facebook or Instagram ads, I think looking for somebody that does this successfully for agents on Upwork or Fiverr. If you're already a top producer, I think that's the way to go. You got to kind of outsource that. And I know there's people that are successful, but
But we're not encouraging the average person who currently doesn't know how and saying the first thing you need to do is go learn the Facebook algorithm.
Right.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And by the way, organic works better and is cheaper. And it's what they want you to do. If you can't post interesting things that people engage with, sure, they'll take your money. But yeah, organic is the way to go. So I see we're at time. 2 other points.
Yeah, go ahead.
Back and say another thing to be tracking is how many leads are you generating from your listings? How many closed deals are you getting from every listing? You got to track that all year. And then the last one I have on my list is what percentage of your gross income is business expense? So there, I almost did it on time.
What percentage is acceptable?
So that's a great question, Charlie. And I would love for us to have debated this offline before I was exposed live, because I remember hearing a very famous person, and I guess I could say who they are, say, if you're under 45% expense, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of choked on it, and so I think it depends on if you're in growth mode. I think if a team is in serious growth mode and they're hitting maybe 45% in expense, we could probably go through the details of that and justify that. I think the average agent should probably be closer to that, 30, 35%. But when you add them all up, like a coach like Tom Ferry says that 10% of everything you earn is appropriate for marketing.
Yeah,
and
right.
15% of everything you earn is appropriate for staff salaries. Well, there's 25 gone right there.
Right.
Okay. So we've got to look at what else would be necessary expenses, tools that you're paying for, paying your brokerage, lots of licensing and things like that. Gifts, is that under marketing?
Right.
So that's the reason I would say probably between 30 and 40%.
And no, I agree. And just for the group, this is taxes are not an expense.
Correct.
For the purpose of this conversation.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true, because then, so let's say that 40% was the number, then 60% of everything you earned was your income.
Yep.
You've now deducted all your expenses, and 60% of whatever that was is what you report to the IRS, and now you got to pay taxes.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, so that I'm sorry for not being perfect, but I don't know that there's a perfect number. Do you, Charlie?
No, we've used these formulas before, and then I actually work them with agents, and a lot of it is also based off of the cost of living of where you are, the cost of doing business. It's not. I know that we all like to use these percentages and try to apply them across the board, but it doesn't always work that way. So I think you've got to do the math for yourself and figure out, what's reasonable and what's not. And, I think that the message here is we're tracking these numbers, so we're paying attention to them so we can make adjustments where needed.
Yep, absolutely. And you'll get better over time. So if you're completely overwhelmed by this, please pick the one thing that we said to track, which is your appointments.
Yep.
Just start there. Have that CEO time with yourself every week where you look at your schedule, you think about what's coming up, you visit your business plan again. If that's what your CEO time was, that's a hell of a start. Once a week, read your business plan again, check in with your schedule, think about your lead generation for the week, track your appointments. That's a start.
That's good. We'll leave it there. Schedule that CEO time. If it's not in your schedule, it doesn't exist.